Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles. And today we have something, well, not that unusual for you. It's not as if I do nothing but destroyer replays, but, well, you just tend to get a bit more of the old pulse-pounding, adrenaline-fueled, action-packed gameplay in a destroyer, particularly Russian and American destroyers because they're gunboats, than you do with most other classes of ship in World of Warships. You certainly wouldn't expect to get that kind of action in a heavy cruiser replay. Step forward, Crustay. Yes, we've seen Crustay before. I featured him a few weeks back in the American Tier 10 destroyer, the USS Gearing. He's here for us today on the North map in the USS New Orleans, the American Tier 8 heavy cruiser. He's in a Tier 9 battle. And while he's not going to be recklessly aggressive in the New Orleans in this match, he's going to play it a damn sight more aggressively than you're probably accustomed to seeing people in cruisers doing. Well, actually, I probably need to qualify that statement. It's not unusual to see people being recklessly aggressive in cruisers in World of Warships. What is unusual is seeing people being recklessly aggressive in World of Warships while driving cruisers and living to tell the tale. I think it's pretty safe to say that Crustay is definitely a very aggressive cruiser captain, which is what makes this replay so exciting to watch. But he's not recklessly aggressive. It may appear that he's recklessly aggressive, but, well, as Shakespeare said, yea, though it be madness, there be method to it. Anyway, battle has commenced. What should you be doing at the start of a match in World of Warships? It's absolutely no different to what you should be doing at the start of the match, or even before the match starts in World of Tanks. Have a look at the map that you're on, have a look at the two team lists, decide what the biggest threats to your personal safety and survival are going to be, and decide where you need to go to do the most for your team. Having a look at the enemy team list, they have 4 destroyers, which means that the battleships on Crustay's team are going to be sweating. Furthermore, there are 2 Japanese and 2 American destroyers on the enemy team. But even the American destroyers can stealth torpedo launch. The Benson and the Fletcher both have the capability of launching torpedoes beyond visible detection range. There's also no aircraft carrier on either team, so there are no fighter patrols capable of spotting destroyers from the air. Bearing all of that in mind, what this probably means is that you can expect all of the battleships on both teams to stick to their end of the map and not go anywhere near those narrow channels granting access between the north and the south through those islands in the middle. And as you can quite clearly see from this expanded view of the mini-map here, zoomed in and running at 8 times normal speed, that is exactly what happens. And you can't really blame the battleships, because when you have this many destroyers running on this map, they just love to lurk around the entrance to all of these channels, just filling them with torpedoes and waiting for battleships to sail down them. And that means the cruisers are going to have to man up. Because if the cruisers don't, you're going to die of old age waiting for the battleships to do it. Step forward, Crustay in the New Orleans. Enemy Attigo up there thinks he's a destroyer, cruising the mouth of the channel in order to get his torpedoes off. This of course means that if you're going to fire the torpedoes, you have to expose the side of your ship, and Crustay's ready and waiting with his 203mm armour piercing. Friendly Hatsuharu fires torpedoes at the Attigo. The Attigo does manage to avoid them all, but this 203mm armour piercing ammunition from American heavy cruisers takes no prisoners. It's completely unlike, for example, the Cleveland's 152mm guns. And when you upgrade from the Cleveland to the Pensacola, which is the first American cruiser to get this kind of caliber guns, it's a big old culture shock for American cruiser captains, because with the Cleveland and those 152mm, the shots take so long to get to the target that you have to give so much lead. With these 203mm, nice flat trajectory, good penetration, so many citadels, particularly when firing at cruisers. At medium range and close range, American 203mm armour piercing can even get through the flat side of a battleship, providing you aim above the torpedo belt side armour. So, Crustay's first kill on the Attigo. But speaking of recklessly aggressive cruiser captains, have a look at the Miyoko over there. He has lost an awful lot of health trying to capture C after the Hatsuharu died. In fact, he's still losing health, so he's probably burning. What he's doing there, and it's working at the moment, is he's actually parked the ship inside this very, very narrow channel running between those 2 mountains over there, which is still actually inside the Charlie capture point. And for the moment, it's working. But it's not going to work forever, because if you look at the map, somebody's capturing Delta. Oh, there he is, Fubuki class destroyer. So the Miyoko's guns are all pointing in the other direction, and the Fubuki starts shooting him up. He is of course spotting the Miyoko, who has now reversed out of the channel in order to fire his torpedoes away, and cops a whole bunch of hits right in the side from all of the enemy ships cruising the other end of the channel. Of course, firing their guns at the Miyoko has just revealed the location of these enemy ships, and there's a Chapayev who is focusing on the Miyoko, as well he should, with his big fat Japanese ass sticking out of that channel. But nice big broad side of the ship to shoot at. Crustay unloads these 203mm guns into him. Armour piercing loaded, of course, he's firing at a cruiser. First shot falls a little short. Second, Citadel City, look at that, 11,000 damage. Chapayev still focusing on the Miyoko because he wants to kill him, but the Chapayev is burning. Which must mean that the Miyoko had switched to high explosive when he saw the Fubuki pop up and then realised how much trouble he was in. And so while he scored some hits on the Chapayev, he hasn't done a massive amount of damage, although the Chapayev is continuing to burn. Nevertheless, with the Miyoko dead, any enemy ships at the end of this channel are now going to switch their fire to Crustay. So he's attempting to nail this Chapayev before he manages to sail out of line of fire. Scores a hit, no idea how much damage, but Crustay has already turned away and he's making himself scarce. Takes a very, very minor hit from the Chapayev in return. And with the Chapayev out of line of sight, Crustay is no longer spotted, but that's just about the only good news that we have at the moment, because his team have now lost 3 ships, and while they did control Bravo and Charlie, and the enemy team controlled Alpha and Delta, the enemy team are now also capping Bravo and Charlie as well. Well, there's nothing Crustay can do about Bravo, but Charlie, it's probably going to be that Fubuki who capped Delta. He's probably doing exactly the same thing that the Miyoko tried to do. And so Crustay fires up his radar, and yep, there he is. Pretty much as expected. Alright, well, okay, we know the Fubuki's there, but knowing he's there and being able to do something about it are two completely different things. It's time for somebody to do something really, really stupid. Crustay, load the high explosive, and in he goes. Now, you'd expect this to be incredibly dangerous. Point blank range, chasing down a Fubuki class destroyer, and it is incredibly dangerous. But Crustay gets away with it because the Fubuki has just capped and now starts nosing out of his smokescreen. There it is. And he picked exactly the wrong moment to do it. The Fubuki sees the New Orleans bearing down on him, realises the trouble he's in, decides he's going to go for it. He guns the engines, makes a turn to starboard in order to get his port torpedo launchers to bear, realises he's going to run himself aground if he does that, tries to correct the turn to port, momentarily runs aground anyway, manages to get off the rocks, shits his pearly pink panties as Crustay, with not a single shit given, just charges straight forward and rams him to death. Totally worth it, because hey, chicks dig scars and glory lasts forever. And he has in fact been joined in the capture of Charlie by one of the only 2 remaining destroyers left alive in his team. I didn't even see that guy arrive. Quite surprised he didn't try to fire torpedoes into the Fubuki and accidentally team kill Crustay, because hey, World of Warships. Right, they've managed to reclaim Charlie for the glory of the US Navy. 1 down, 3 to go. Oh, and in fact somebody is attempting to cap A, or they're at least contesting it. So, I spy another destroyer. Well, Crustay's still got the high explosives loaded, and that guy does not have a huge amount of health. Shots out, kill number 3. And approaching head on like that, there is no way that guy got torpedoes away. In fact, there you can see his torpedoes heading off in the other direction. So, there's a guy who zigged when he should have zagged. But, ooh, what's this? Crustay's coming under fire. Who the hell is that? It could be those enemy cruisers on the other side of the slot over in the Delta point, but well, you wouldn't have oh, it's that guy! It's a Kagero! Japanese Tier 9 destroyer. Now, you can see he's dropped the smoke screen, but he's actually moved out of it. And now the cheeky little bugger is shooting at Crustay's cruiser. He's managed to set him on fire. Well, Crustay had the high explosive loaded anyway from dealing with the last destroyer, so he returns the compliment. And the Kagero starts trying to reverse back into the safety of his own smokescreen. Crustay continues the turn. He's not anxious to present a broadside to something that launches torpedoes. And while this means he can only get his front 2 turrets firing at this guy, that's still 2/3 of the ship's firepower. And here come the Kagero's torpedoes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So, yep, that's all of the torpedoes that the Kagero can fire. Right, well, we've got at least a minute before the Kagero can launch torpedoes again, so time to pursue the target. High explosive loaded. Hang on a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 torpedoes. The Fletcher is in that smoke screen as well. That's the only thing that can mean. Now he's either holding the other 5 torpedoes in reserve, or he's already fired them at something and they're on cooldown. And the only way to find out whether or not the Fletcher is ready to fire a second spread of torpedoes is to turn the ship in order to get away from this smoke screen and find out what hits you in the side. And Crustay can't afford to do that, so he's committed. He's going for it. There's the Kagero. We know this guy's got no torpedoes left to fire, so this is just an execution. And bang, there he goes. Oh crap, there's the Fletcher. Now, why would a Fletcher reverse broadside on out in front of a cruiser unless he had a second set of torpedoes to fire? It's either that or this guy is just determined to commit suicide by cruiser. There's only one way to find out. Crustay's just thinking, screw it, I'm in the smoke screen, the first thing I know about the torpedoes will be when they hit me. Let's just swing the arse of the ship out and get that third turret firing. Nails the Fletcher. All 4 enemy destroyers dead, plus the Attigo, Kraken unleashed, and it turns out Crustay's gonna live. Why would the Fletcher do that? Why didn't he try to run away? He's certainly fast enough, but nope, just decided to commit suicide by cruiser instead. Unsurprisingly, after that carnage, they're now ahead on points. They've recaptured Bravo and Charlie, and one of the battleships on the team actually managed to capture Alpha from the enemy team. And unsurprisingly, with all of the enemy destroyers dead, all of the other battleships on Crustay's team suddenly take their brave pills and they venture south to find something to shoot at. Crustay going for the kill steal on the Tirpitz. And it's looking... oh, damn it. Oh, he's spotted. Can't be the Colorado. There's a smoke screen and a mountain in the way. Oh, it's the York. Okay. Alright, this is less than good. You see, Crustay's little adventure down here at the southern end of the map, playing with all of the enemy destroyers, means that he's now the only thing available for all 4 of the remaining enemy ships to shoot at. What do you mean, Jingles? I can only see 2, the York and the Colorado. Yeah, you can only see 2. But there's a Chapayev and an Indianapolis out there as well, and Crustay is about to become the object of all of their attention. It's almost as if he's pissed them off or something. Now, okay, the New Orleans is a heavy cruiser, but let's not forget that the heavy part of the heavy cruiser moniker refers to the caliber of the guns. It's got nothing whatsoever to do with the armour. And while the New Orleans does have better armour than the Pensacola at Tier 7, that's not saying an awful lot. The Ford Fiesta has got better armour than the Pensacola at Tier 7. The Pensacola is just a floating citadel waiting to be hit. It is a floating citadel with some very big guns, but, well, the Pensacola is more famous for doing damage than taking damage. And while the New Orleans is better at taking damage than the Pensacola, at the end of the day it's still just a cruiser. And, well, oh dear, there's the Indianapolis. So desperate to do damage he exposes the side. That's a paddle. He should know better. He's got the same guns as the New Orleans. He should know exactly what these guns can do. So there's the Confederate to go with the Die Hard and the Kraken Unleashed for 5 kills. But with this many ships shooting at you from multiple different angles, it's really only a matter of time before you go down. But ironically, it's going to be the Chapayev who does it. This is the guy that Crustay almost killed, but managed to get away on a sliver of health, in more or less exactly the same spot where you can see him now, just heading in the other direction. Still, nothing to be ashamed of there, Crustay. Very, very well done indeed. Crustay hogging the limelight once again and showing off in the Tier 8 USS New Orleans in a Tier 9 battle on the North map, slaughtering every single destroyer, knocking off a cruiser, and severely humiliating an Indianapolis towards the end there as well. Very, very well done. Now, Crustay, stop hogging the limelight. Give somebody else a chance. Hope you enjoyed today's video, folks. Crustay, thank you once again for sending another exceptionally entertaining replay in. And as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.